This is Mark Brunett. He's one of our frequent attendees here in the US. He's a great guy, and he had a tweet earlier today saying that he's going to patent every single stupid password idea possible so that he can sue every idiot trying to implement them and turn them into products and make that into his business idea. And that should be a nice introduction to Mark, I think.
Yep.
There you go, Mark.
All right. Mark Brunett. I do security. I've been doing it for.
God, seriously?
Right. Right. Believe it or not, I've been doing it for. I've been doing it for about 15 years. I've been working in security for about 15 years. I've been working in IT or working with security-related stuff. I've been doing that for about 20 years. I've been writing code for about 30 years. A lot of what I do, well, in the last 15 years, I've worked in just about every area of security. A lot of what I do now is code security, developing training presentations, things like that. But I just kind of wanted to start in talking about how I got into security and how I got interested in passwords. And it started off about 20 years ago. I was working for this company, and I was writing code, and I'd go in every day to work, sit down on my computer, type in my password, which was dog's name, a couple numbers or something like that. Work all day, write code all day, quit in the shut it down at the end of the day. Next day, walk in, type in my password, dog's name, a couple numbers, and I do this every day. And I about every month or so, they would ask me to change my password, and so I would, being as clever as I would increment it. So one day, before it was dog's name 1 2. The next time it was dog's name 1 3, and now sometimes I would get really clever and skip a few, dog's name 19, dog's name 25. So that was me. And so anyway, this was a boring job, and so I spent a lot of time researching, and I got into researching security, most actually hacking, and I was really interested, and I learned a few tricks, how to just tricks, and I got this reputation around the office as being the office hacker, because I had these things that made me look a lot smarter than I really was. One day, one of the managers came to me and said they had this problem. What happened was the network administrator and the VP got in an argument, and the administrator just left the company, but he didn't tell anyone his passwords. Now, the VP was too stubborn to call and ask for the passwords, so this manager comes to me and says, he wants me, since I'm the hacker, he wants me to go and break all the passwords for the network. And I said, yeah, okay, sure. But I got thinking about it, like, oh no, what did I get myself into? Because I wasn't really, it was just a few tricks I knew. So anyway, I spent a few hours doing this, and one thing I realized is that people have really bad passwords. It wasn't just me; it was everyone. And another thing I realized, I was pretty good at guessing, but I went from one system to another, got all the passwords. It was Superman 12, Superman 2, Superman 1 2 3. Wonder Woman. It was just really obvious passwords. So I went through and got them all, and I sent them to back to this manager. He went home. Next morning, I got up, as I was walking up to the office, the president and the vice president of the company just happened to be walking in at the same time I was. And I swear they rehearsed this. But as I walked up, they both bowed before me, opened the door, and let me into the office. And so I thought I was pretty cool, like, wow, I'm the office hacker, and I went down, sat at my desk, and typed in my password, dog's name 59. And that's when I realized, how horrible, I was. I was just as vulnerable as anyone else was. So I got into security, I got into passwords, and it kind of became my life's hobby, really, is to learn about passwords, learn how people choose passwords, learn about how the thought process that goes behind it. So that's my thing. I've spent my years doing, even though I've got my day job, I've always been fascinated with passwords, and I think it's great that we have so many other people here who are interested in passwords. Thanks for letting me speak here. It's really, my talk is just a big rant, so thanks for listening to my rant. I've never had someone to do this. I never had an audience listen to me complain about passwords. My wife, well, she likes me to do it only when she's trying to fall asleep at night. You know, talk to me about passwords. So, yeah.
Been there, done that. Yep.
She thinks I'm an idiot. So anyway, I get a lot of emails because I've been doing password stuff for a long time. I get a lot of emails from people. They want me to check out their password solution. And oh yeah, that's great. You know, I love looking at new stuff. And I warn them though, that if this is a graphical password scheme, I'm not going to be nice. It's always a graphical password scheme. So, and I'm never nice. But, you know, I hate them. I've gotten to the point where I just really hate them. You know, I hate hearing about them. Every day there's new graphical password schemes. I also hate all the biometric stuff. I mean, come on, logging in with your feet? You know, there's so much time. I don't hate biometrics, but I hate how much time is spent and how much effort is spent logging in with your knuckles, your feet, or, you know, the way you walk or whatever. And I think it's just a huge waste when there's so many other problems that we need to solve and that we haven't solved all these years. Another thing that's kind of annoying is seeing how many mobile authentication apps there are. And they're good, you know, most of them, or many of them are solid. But the thing is, we need 1,000 of them, you know, and each one's proprietary. Each one, they don't work with each other. And each one requires a major investment from the company. So that's kind of what I hate. Here's some more things I hate. Press releases that use password killer in the title. Research papers that use novel approach. It's never a novel approach. Articles that use the phrase passwords are passé in the title. Kill a password. And I really hate the stock photo. It's everywhere. I mean, you don't see an article without this. Okay, anyway. Stock photo. Yeah, and sometimes it's red. Yeah, and sometimes it's reversed. There's one that's reversed. So, okay. So I've got this tie, and I am going to give it away. Little contest here. If anyone can tell me who or what or anything about the first password hacker, or when, or the story, or guess. Oh, you're going way back more, way farther back. Go ahead.
Back in the 60s.
Right. You are correct. So you get a password tie. So it started off, this guy right here came up with password scheme. It was the first password used on a computer. And, you know, it was time sharing. It was the way they kept everyone's files separate. It's the way they kept track of the time used on the computer. Well, the Alan Scher, that's Corbato. Yeah. And Alan Scher was one of the students there, one of the doctorate students, and he needed more time. He already used up all his time on the system. So he found out there was a file. Let's see here. Grab my thing. UACCNT.secret was a file that had all the passwords in it. And even though he didn't have access to the file, they had this system where when you wanted to run a print job, and you know, usually it took a while to queue up the print job and get it all printed and get it, you know, go ahead and get it. So you submit a punch card with your account name, the name of the file you want printed, and then you go and pick it up later. So he submitted that file, used the system account name, and went and picked up the password file later, and it was all printed, so he had all the accounts. So that's the first password hack. Okay, so graphical passwords. Graphical passwords. So we've spent, like I said, a lot of time working on graphical passwords. Other people spend a lot of time. But there's okay. I pick on graphical passwords because it's a good example of going astray and the way we do our research. And 17,911 patents for graphical passwords and image-based passwords. And think about that, 17,911 patents. I mean, I think we've thought that one through all the way. Okay? I mean, we don't really need any more graphical password schemes. There's about 2,100 research scholarly documents that written about graphical password schemes. I mean, it's just we've spent way too much time figuring out problems that weren't really problems in the first place, and really don't need solving. So the flaws. Okay, well, first of all, the graphical password schemes are usually there's presented several 10 minutes already. Wow. Several images. You pick one or two that I got a lot more ranting to do. Come on. Or you. That's right. If anyone wants to hear any more ranting, I got. Okay. So anyway, you either pick a picture, or you pick some points on a picture, or you draw a shape, or something like that. Now the flaws are that it's a small key space. Now a lot of people argue these. You see these formulas in the research papers that say how large this key space is. They're wrong. Okay. The key space is small. Most of them. They're based on visual interactions. Okay, so you've limited people with visual impairments. You have issues with if you don't have a graphical screen or a graphical environment, you can't use it with an API or anything like that. Another problem is they're not exact, so they have to be a little bit fuzzy. If you don't hit the right spot on the screen or whatever, or if you do allow that, then they're I mean, if they're not exact, what they're doing is basically saying, it's like a password where they let you enter it in one letter off and they'll still accept it, okay? Or they're too exact, where you get a lot of false negatives and rejected. There's hashing issues. A lot of times these schemes are based on, you have to, it's based on logic where it has to make a decision whether to let you in or not. You can't just take like a password and hash it and compare it. So there are, depending on the scheme, there are issues on storing the hash. They actually have to store in encrypted form the actual answers. They're open to shoulder surfing, less convenient. Sometimes it's actually easier to type in a password than picking pictures from the screen or whatever, moving the mouse around. And they're still a password. They're still knowledge-based, and they still have a lot of the same weaknesses as passwords. Now, we've got, okay, so one of the things we can do, it's been 50 years, and we really haven't made a lot of progress on passwords. I mean, we've come up with some things, we've come up with some good ideas, and some of the policies are, things have relaxed, and people are a little bit smarter, admins are a little bit smarter about how to do things. I remember once on a mailing list, it was probably about 15 years ago, where I talked about the password length is all that really matters. So we're talking about complexity, character sets, all that stuff. And I said, if you have this password that's long enough, it really doesn't matter which characters are in there. And I got so much hate mail from that. I mean, geez. So anyway, it's taken a while just to get that, just the basic things down. I mean, we're still having secret questions where they're asking for your eye color. And we still haven't really got the basics down, let alone the more difficult problems. So I was thinking that it would help if we had more standardization, give us figure out really what our problems are, what our weaknesses are, and go from there. That way we know where we need to spend our effort. Authentication standards, there's a number of them. Many of you heard of the FIDO Alliance, but there's also MIDAS, Security, Coalition, Auto, and there's all these competing groups trying to develop standards. Of course, the FIDO Alliance is got quite a bit of industry support, but there are also a lot of other groups trying to establish these standards. But what we really need are metrics. The these alliances are mostly APIs for communicating, but the metrics are really what tell us what's wrong with our systems, verify that our mechanisms for authenticating really are working the way we think they work. It's guidance for developers that helps you when you want to purchase products, and you understand, really just, you quantify the strengths and weaknesses of any system. Oh, come on. There we go. So, oh wait, okay, that's right, okay. This is what happens when you don't have standards, okay? So this is a patent I found one day. Fingerprints, people don't like fingerprints, so hey, someone thought of a great idea, put a fingerprint on a device. A little fake fingerprint, so you've got a fingerprint, but a device. The problem is, instead of getting the best of both worlds, you get the worst of both worlds. But so anyway, one of the groups is IDESG, and they have done a lot of work on standardizing, coming up with these metrics, coming up with these principles, guiding principles for how authentication should happen. It's still really unorganized, or it's still really very much in its infancy, but it's the one I've seen that has the most potential. I think we as a community should participate in that and guide the way, the direction we take on authentication. But beyond what they've established, we've got accessibility issues. I mean, my 10-year-old doesn't have a cell phone. My father-in-law doesn't have a cell phone, probably wouldn't know how to use it anyway. There's authentication going through SMS isn't going to work with him. There's legal issues. There's ethical considerations. For example, using biometrics and enrolling people without their knowledge. Facebook has done this, where they use behavioral analysis to see to understand if it's really you working on working on the site or interacting with the site. That's kind of a light example, but a company could, for example, take pictures as you're walking in and use that, enroll you basically into a authentication system without your knowledge. There's also cultural issues. There's also issues like some people just don't like touching things that other people touched. So a fingerprint scanner may not be a good idea for people like that. So design patterns. How am I doing on time?
7 minutes.
Okay, so another thing we need to do is we need to establish well-defined design patterns. We've done things, we've said you've got to use a hash assault with your hash. You've got certain processes you go through with your password resets, but I mean, we're still having problems with secret questions, all these things. Token and attribute binding is another area where you don't see a lot of talking about that. Multi-factor authentication, people are still doing that wrong. What you have, of course, multi-factor. There's an issue here with usability. Like I said, my father-in-law or my 10-year-old. I mean, we don't really have systems that will really work for people like that who don't really understand computers very well, or who are too young, or may have other disabilities. We don't really have good ways to scale that to that user base. Scalability. I have my keychain has like 10 tokens on it, hardware tokens, because I like hardware tokens, but come on, doesn't anyone else like hardware tokens? So that's only going to go so far. You can only have so many hardware tokens, and to really have that security, you got to have some kind of way to make this work on a user scalable basis. Loss recovery, recovering from losing your token, or the token breaking, or token wearing down. And a lot of companies allow multiple tokens, but they only let you use one at a time. You can choose, they support different methods, but they only let you pick one. And it would be nice if I could use a hardware token when I log in my computer at home, a different token when I log in from work, and maybe a different token when I'm like a authentication, Google Authenticator number, the top P number, whatever, when I log in from my phone. I mean, it would be nice to be able to have multiple tokens. One thing that Google supports is having multiple tokens when you log in. So if you lose one, you can have a backup one to recover. So multi-factors. It would be nice to be able to have more than one token if we want it. But the thing is that we really haven't established guidelines for how to do this, and you know, we haven't really said you need to support multiple tokens. You need to support you know, this minimum amount of security, just like with LastPass. I mean, you log in with your YubiKey or something like that, but on your phone, you just log in with your phone. And it goes, you know, it lets you log in with that. You don't have to provide the second factor. Presumably your phone is the second factor, but you can lose your phone. So, wow, I miss all my good stories. So okay, here's a good story. This is my conclusion as a story. So I used to play around with my kids and have them type passwords behind my back, like common passwords, and I would guess what the password was. So one time, years ago, I was doing a sales meeting with a client, and the admin gets up, and I was actually passing a kidney stone at the time, so I was just kind of like this with my head. But he types in his password, and I recognize it, you know, admin123. I mean, I knew this password so well, the sound of it. We type it, sometimes it sounds really distinct. I sat up and I said, "Is your password admin123?" And it was like quiet for a second. All of a sudden, the whole room burst out laughing. And this admin turned bright red. But yeah, good skill to have. So I didn't get the job, though, as a thing. So anyway, I mean, we're a world of secrets. We've got passwords, but we really haven't developed much. I mean, you read these old mailing lists, and they're having the same problems, they're having the same discussions that we're having today. We really haven't figured this out, and we kind of, as a community, need to, you know, contribute and guide the thinking and guide the research and write blog posts and establishes where we should put our efforts. What are the problems that are unsolved that we really haven't solved yet? And that's it. Any questions?
I noticed that you use the example dog's name many times without ever telling us the dog's name. Is that because you're still using that as your password?
So. Some passwords you just can't change.
Dog 2015.
Yeah, I'm way past that.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to ask you the name of your dog 15 years ago.
Yeah.
There you go. Yep. Well, I think Mark should stick around for the last talk as well. It could be interesting.
Well, since we're doing lighthearted questions, what are your views on the use of janitor's key rings for multiple physical tokens?
Oh, that's a great idea. That's about where I'm going to be moving to. But yeah, I had one of my sons. He just loses everything. He's gone through like 6 cell phones. I gave him a token. I thought, you know, my kids, you know, they have to deal with me. So I gave him a token to log into an account. He lost it. I mean, geez. So I put a chain on it. It was a big, long chain. On the next one I gave him a big, long chain on it, and he still lost it, so I gave up. But yeah, I should have gotten one of those janitor things.
So Mark actually has done a book on passwords. I remember purchasing that online. I just had to read it.
And I wrote that 10 years ago, and it's all still valid. Much of it's still valid today.
I mean, I have no better answer than you on like why we continue getting stuck. But one thing I have observed is that a common thread is when people start talking about, you know, how to get rid of passwords, is they always start, it seems to me, in the absolute wrong places, making a long list of what's wrong with passwords. And if you want to get rid of them, you'd be far better off making a list of what's right with passwords, because it gives you a better understanding of, you know, hey, these guys have beaten everyone who's climbed into the ring with them in the last, you know, quarter century.
Exactly.
And make a list of everything that's right with them, gives you a better idea of what you have to be.
Exactly, and it's always, passwords are broken, so hey, let's get rid of them, let's replace them. And then the first logical conclusion is, what if we could log in with pictures? But see, the thing is, if you're going to do pictures, you might as well just think of, you know, the pictures, you know, apple, dog, whatever, battery, and write out the words as your password. If you're going to have to remember what it was anyway, you might as well use that as your password. So, what's that? Okay, but
yeah,
I'll do that.
There have been mentions here also of movies like, you know, War Games and Sneakers, and obviously all of you have watched those movies multiple times, and you haven't. Shame on you.
And what's the password? What's the password for Dr. Falcon's
Professor
backdoor?
Falcon.
Professor Falcon.
Joshua.
Joshua.
Yeah.
Joshua 5. Okay, and then what's
We seriously need to do a password competition. of some
password
sort.
trivia? How
Yeah.
how about Trinity's password in the Matrix? No one? Zion with a 0, of course, because she's elite.
The
and
passwords
0, 1, 0,
for
1,
the
or
evil
something like
German hacker in the Cliffstall book, The Cuckoo's Egg.
that. Oh, that was I used to know that.
Benson Hedges, yeah. He used Benson and he used Hedges on different accounts.
Nuclear launch codes for the U.S. until 1978.
Hey!
8 zeros.
8 zeros. Yeah. Well,
There's your password for
at least
trivia
the
for the
rule
day.
says that. Okay. So again, thank you, Mark.